talking with people about football, the way he played it and the way it's played now, a look at the old helmets. Those things were an invitation to some knocked out teeth, and the old uniforms. They used to play both ways in those days, as the president knew. Both ways without anything like the protection the players have today. And then passed the bus of the new members to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and have just been inducted. And as he approached Vince Lombardi's bust, an interview with my new colleague, the New York football giant immortal, Frank Gifford.
Well, Mr. President, I know of your fondness, not only for sports, physical fitness, but also Vince Lombardi, who's being honored here at the Hall of Fame. He was a very special man, I think, to so many people, and I think you felt that.
He was very special to me, mainly because I read about him and admired him as millions of Americans did, who saw what a man he was. He was a great coach, as you, of course, know, but more than that, he was a fine family man. He was a man who loved his country, and he set a magnificent example for people all over the country. I think that if you were to pick one man who has more caught the imagination of the nation in the field of sports, it's probably Vince Lombardi, because of his character.
He certainly had that. Of course, the other inductees that are being inducted in the Hall of Fame, Wyatt Tittle, Jim Brown, Bruiser Kennard, Andy Robustelli.
I remember so well the time that I met both Wyatt Tittle and Andy Robustelli was in your apartment, Frank, in New York in 1962. You know, in those years, you had those great giant teams. I don't mean they aren't so great now, but
close to a championship
yeah,
team.
Well, they were championship in my book, and I recall the great time we had, and what fun it was just to sit there and talk football. I've often thought that if I had my life to live over again and didn't go into politics, I'd like to have your job, you know, be a sportscaster, a writer.
We do have a good seat.
Yes. Well, possibly if I'm not too old, you'll give me the chance some later.
Well, I've heard you do a very fine color job once before. Where did the interest in football, physical fitness, athletics in general, I know you're a general sports fan, where did it begin? Back at Whittier, maybe with Chief Newman, the head coach?
Yes. Whittier, as you know, right next to Southern Cal, is a small college, but with a very fine football tradition. And my coach, Chief Newman, of course, was an alumnus of your college, or University of Southern California. As a matter of fact, he was an All-American.
A great player.
A great player. He played tackle and fullback both. In the days when they went both ways, he played tackle on defense and fullback on offense. But the Chief, in a very interesting way, was a lot like Lombardi. He was a fellow who produced good teams. I think the thing that I remember most about him was his attitude about being a good loser. He said, you ought to be a good loser. But being a good loser to him, he says, you got to hate to lose. You got to hate to lose and get up off that floor and come back to fight again. And he got that into everyone who ever played for him, or as I did, sat on the bench and was on the taxi squad. And I think perhaps that may have had an effect on me. I had to lose a little before I won.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Nixon, I know, excuse me, Mr. President. Mr. President, I know, it's very difficult now. I know you were a fan of the Los Angeles Rams, a very good fan of the Giants when you were in New York, a fan of the Washington Redskins. Do you find it difficult now to pick a team, to root for it, just like it all?
Well, first, Frank, as president, I have to be very nonpartisan. And when I go to a game, consequently, it's very difficult because I like to be for a team, for a man or for a team. I don't mean being so much against the other team, but for somebody I know. But what I have now decided is the best rule is to be for the team in which the city I happen to be living. Now, that's the Washington Redskins at the present time with George Allen, who, incidentally, as you remember, coached at Whittier before he went on to the Chicago Bears as a defensive coach and then on to the Rams and now to the Washington Redskins. I've told him I'm going to come out to the game, I'm going to root for the Redskins. But let me say that when I'm in Los Angeles, I'm rooting for the Rams. Or when I'm in San Diego, I'm with the Chargers. You name it, and I'll be there.
Mr. President, I want to thank you for joining us. I know I speak for Mrs. Lombardi, Marie, all the inductees. I know how terribly honored they are to have you here.
Well, I think it's nice that she is going to be here tonight, and I think also, Frank, speaking of the fact that Vince Lombardi was such a wonderful family man, a deeply religious man, that this is his 31st wedding anniversary. It would have been tonight. So the fact that he's in the Hall of Fame, that she's here on this day, which must have meant so much to both of them, I think is very significant.
It couldn't have been better put.
Thank you.
Thank you.